Hello, hello. Happy Thanksgiving. Happy Turkey Day to those who celebrate. If you're in the United States, you're most likely celebrating because who doesn't love eating? This is DemoPOD, the Demolition Podcast. That is Bill Axe Eadie, Barry Smash Darso. I'm your host, Ryan Marr, and we are going to talk today or tonight, depending on what you're watching. Hopefully you're not too full. We're going to talk all about Survivor Series 1989 and 1990. And we teased at the end of our last episode, which covered Survivor Series 1987 and 1988, what a difference a year makes, because this was a crazy whirlwind of a year for Demolition, going from the prime of their popularity, in the midst of the prime of their popularity, to all of a sudden disbanding, an additional member, everything in between. But it all happened within that calendar year. Bill and Barry, how you guys doing?
Very good. Good to be with you.
Yep, doing good. Good, thank you.
Yeah, we're gonna hope that for this episode we don't have any technical issues. Our last one, you guys had some, and then in pre-production for this one, I had some. So hey, we make it work though. That's what I love about working with you guys. We always find a way to make it work. I want to start with Survivor Series 1989. And Dan, I'm going to have throw up a promo poster for it, because this is the third annual Survivor Series, 1989. And now the marketing has really evolved. It's 1989. We're at the tail end of the booming 80s, and it's now referred to as the WWF Thanksgiving Night tradition. So it started in 1987 as let's give this a shot live on pay-per-view. Now it's the tradition. And you guys are in the main event of all main events, and it's taking place at the Rosemont Horizon in Chicago, Illinois. Now, I know you guys probably have your own opinions because you've literally both wrestled all over the world, every continent. But in my opinion, just from a fan's perspective, and I haven't ever gotten to witness it live, there is just something different about those wrestling fans in Chicago, is there not?
Well, they were always vocal. They were always involved in the match. And, we always enjoyed going to Chicago. It was one of our favorite towns.
Yeah, the Rosemont Horizon was a pretty fun building because everybody had good seats there. So that's what made it so crazy.
Is that what it was? The setup of the arena that you could see? Because I remember being at the old Giants Stadium for football as a Giants fan before they knocked it down and built MetLife. And you could literally be in the top row of the upper decks, and you could still see perfectly. Not so much with new MetLife. There's just certain arenas that you can do that. Rosemont was one of them, huh?
Yeah,
correct.
Rosemont was one of them.
That is awesome. I mean, and especially on Thanksgiving night, you would think people would be tired. They'd be full. No, not there. I mean, this crowd reacted to everything, absolutely everything that went on in that match, not just your match, the entire card. I mean, I'm talking punches, kicks, body slams. I mean, pop wouldn't be the appropriate word. Al Snow once told me that the pop is the climax. That's what, that's you want to make the people pop, right? But Chicago, they were just always screaming at the top of their lungs for whatever was going on. And this night was no exception.
Great building, great fans. Every time we went to Chicago, we knew that we were going to have an exciting night because the fans were always involved in the match.
And I got to know. I'm sorry, Barry, go ahead.
What I couldn't believe about that match, and I just watched it not too long ago because I knew we were going to talk about it, but Hulk Hogan sold his ass off. I couldn't believe it. He sold, I mean, the whole match. He almost sold. He made a couple comebacks, but he sold like crazy. And that's what made that match.
Well, I agree that he sold like crazy, but I mean, you guys are being very modest. You had a big thing to do. I mean, all of you did. Yeah. I mean, you guys all really made that match, and we've talked about it on past episodes. We talked about it, especially when we did our Hulk Hogan memorial episode on the night that Hulk passed away. That photo, which Dan will bring up, where it's Hulk Hogan with the Winged Eagle WWE World Championship belt, you guys standing there, and Jake the Snake Roberts with Damien wrapped around his neck. I mean, it just doesn't get more iconic than that. That poster, that picture is just so synonymous with the boom period of the golden era of professional wrestling. I mean, would you guys say that that is probably the height of the Demolition fame during that run when you find out we're going to be teaming with Hulk Hogan on pay-per-view on Thanksgiving night in Chicago?
Well, it was a special night, like you said, that photo. And the nice thing about it is when we go to fan fest and conventions, and probably 65-70% of the people remember that match. Either the parts of it or they all remember the photo, and it brings back fond memories for us. Uh, Even today, I was thinking, because I knew we were going to do the podcast today, it's hard for me to believe that Hogan's not still here.
Yeah.
It really is, because you see him, he's still, on the pro wrestling uh, thing, and you see his son, and they mention his daughter, and it's just hard. It's
Yeah.
just that I'm still not over that.
And that's totally understandable. I mean, you guys both shared the memories that you had with them. See, what I find interesting, and again, we talked about on the last episode how a lot of comedians are pro wrestling fans, and they're always asking me questions about what you guys are like, what it's like to work with you guys. And then even friends of mine in my personal life that are not comedians always ask the same questions. And what I try to explain to them, and I learned this, I mean, when we did that episode in memory of Hulk, there were quite a few YouTube comments where people jumped at me, and I can take it, because they said, how did you not realize that Hulk Hogan's first title defense after he defeated the Iron Sheik was against Bill Eadie as the Masked Superstar? And I said, I didn't know. I guess it wasn't televised, or maybe if it was televised. And, I was born in 1983. So that happened in 1984. I mean, so, all right, I apologize, guys. And believe me, I'm having fun with, always correct me in the comments. This is just as much for the fans as it is for everybody else. But you really got to experience that whole rise of Hulkamania, right? I mean, you came in 1987 as Demolition at the height of it, but it really went up until 1992 when he left that first time. So it had to just be a wild ride. And I don't think you guys always get to enjoy it because, like you said, you're on the road so much, you don't really get to sit back and smell the roses. So to be now a part of it on a pay-per-view had to be a thrill.
Well, it was an honor because we knew that it was going to be well received, nationwide, worldwide. We really didn't know the gravity of how long it would last, even up till today. But yeah, I mean, we had a great time doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah, what was really kind of nice about that is us as a tag team to get in the ring with Jake, who's a phenomenal wrestler, and Hulk. That's pretty much the only time we're going to be in the ring with those guys. So it's kind of nice to have them as your partners out there. And otherwise we probably wouldn't have been in the ring with those guys together. So that was a fun time. Good
And
moment.
what a testament to how your guys' run really skyrocketed, right? Because now we're in a position where I feel like Demolition at this time period kind of, for lack of a better term, transcended tag team wrestling. Because in 1987 and 1988, they have the two back-to-back 10-man elimination tag team matches, right? But now you're in a position where a year later, you're there with Hulk Hogan and Jake the Snake Roberts, and you're taking on the $1 Million Team of Ted DiBiase, the Powers of Pain, who you just did the double turn with, and now Zeus. And I have to know what was going through your heads when you found out this information. Of course, Zeus was the late actor Tiny Lister. Again, going back to that Hulk Hogan memorial episode we did, we talked about Bill Axe playing Jake Bullet in the movie No Holds Barred. Bill, did you get to meet Michael Tiny Lister on the set of No Holds Barred, or no? Did your paths not cross at that point?
No, I was only there, like I said, the one day taping. I'm sure that they taped his segments separately in different days, but we did get to know him after years later, because we did a lot of conventions that he was on, and he was always real nice to us. And, not standoffish. He was one of the boys. He became one of the boys after getting into business. And it, when we look back at it, and I think Barry will remember this too, he was a little apprehensive about getting in that match because, like you said, he had no experience and he wasn't sure what he was getting into.
Mm-hmm.
So, but
Yeah,
he was always nice to us after that.
yeah, no matter who you are, if you're not a wrestler and you get in with that talent in front of all those people, it's got to be a real hard situation. I mean, he was an actor. It's different than, live. You can't make mistakes. The TV camera's right on you. And, a lot of people don't realize, when we're in there, we can't make mistakes. We're actors. They, cut, let's do it again. It's quite an art what we did. And, I'm proud of all of us. I mean, and the wrestlers now, unbelievable what everybody can do.
Well, and especially during that time period, right? Because I mean, the only thing that I could think of is back when Andy Kaufman did his thing in Memphis with Jerry Lawler. But Andy Kaufman was a performance artist that, I mean, I love the guy, but some would say he had a few screws loose. And a lot of people have made the argument in Hollywood that it was Andy Kaufman's involvement in professional wrestling, especially at a time where kayfabe was still very much alive, that it actually damaged his career as an actor and comedian. So what I always found interesting about the Tiny Lister dynamic was, here's a guy who, he went on and he did other successful things. He was Debo in the Friday films. I actually remember seeing him in The Dark Knight. He had a role in that as well years later. He actually wound up in WCW as Z Gangsta for a period of time. They kind of rekindled his feud with Hulk, but couldn't call him Zeus. But for me, it was interesting because I had nightmares about Zeus as a kid after seeing No Holds Barred. I mean, he was this monster. He was a killer, and he was the main villain in the movie. And if I remember correctly, the whole storyline was that Zeus was upset with how Hulk Hogan treated him on set, and now he was coming to the WWE to exact his revenge. Do you guys remember what the mindset was of the boys in the locker room when this Hollywood actor is now coming in and he's getting a main event spot on the main? I mean, I would imagine a lot of guys weren't too thrilled with it.
There was a couple guys who were upset. A couple guys that felt they were getting overlooked. But there again, if Vince wanted it, Vince is going to have it. So just deal with it. It wasn't going to be like he was going to be a mainstay. It wasn't going to be he was going to take somebody's spot for a number of months or a year. So, but there was quite a few guys that were upset about it. Yeah.
And I would imagine for you guys, I mean, you're thrilled to be in that main event spot. You're teaming with Hulk Hogan and Jake the Snake Roberts. You're going against the $1 Million Man, Ted DiBiase, arguably the biggest heel in the business at the time. The Powers of Pain, who by this point you guys know like the back of your hand. I mean, because now you've been all around the horn with them feuding. But is there some apprehension on your part knowing like, all right, we're getting in there now with a guy who really has no experience? I mean, he got disqualified pretty quickly. They wanted to use that as the setup to take him somewhere else with Hulk Hogan. But what's the setup of going into a match like that now? I mean, we talked about in the last episode, you guys call everything out in the ring with 20 guys, but now you're working with, as The Undertaker called them, the Golden Goose. And now you got a Hollywood actor. Are the agents a little more hands-on with discussing preparation for this match or giving you guys pointers, or no? Are they still just, hey, go do your thing? Or does Hulk call all the shots? How does that work?
I don't recall the agents getting involved any more than they normally would. And as far as Barry and I, we probably, and Barry can speak for himself, but you just a little more cautious. If you know one of the four guys over there can't work, he's going to try and he's going to try his best, but just protect yourself. It's always better to be one step ahead than two steps behind. So, oh my God, I didn't see that coming.
And in that situation, we knew that Warlord and Barbarian are the two guys that we're going to go after. So for us to get in the ring with Zeus, it probably wasn't even going to happen, you know?
Yeah.
So we weren't, and he, talking to him before the match and everything, he was really a good guy. He would do anything you wanted to do anyways. It's just that he couldn't do it. So it'd have to be so, it'd be so limited to what he did. And what he did was very limited with Hulk,
Yeah.
but he did a really good job with Hulk though. And then when he got disqualified, so that whole angle there worked. And, Jake was phenomenal in that match too. So,
Yeah.
but nobody said, hey, don't put the boots to him or let Hulk do this. I mean, we were pretty much, you got the tag, you go and do your stuff,
One of the things that I found most interesting about that match was the beginning, right? And just the psychology of it, because we've told the story on past episodes of the podcast about the snake that was used that night and how it actually escaped and wound up in the rafters of the Rosemont Horizon. The first snake that you were going to go out there with, just you couldn't control it. So they were like, oh, there's no way we're using this. They had a backup snake. The original one got lost. But now
it was twice the size of that one that you saw. I mean, it was huge.
But it still worked. And I'm going to tell you why, because I, again, had that VHS tape. I watched that match probably 24 times in my life, but I had completely forgotten about the opening of that match. And I've heard you guys tell that story about the snake situation. And it was during the virtual signing that we did. We did two of them. You told it on both virtual signings and you told it on an episode of this podcast. And I remember hearing the story and just thinking like, oh, okay, that's an interesting story. But now I'm seeing why it had to be a big snake, because I remember now after watching you guys come to the ring and they're not letting you in the ring. Ted DiBiase, the Powers of Pain and Zeus, they're chasing you off. They're chasing you off. And then Hogan looks at Jake. Jake looks at you guys, and then they point to the bag. And it was the snake that cleared those guys out of the ring that got you in. And again, commentary team, Gorilla Monsoon, Jesse Ventura. They're selling it. And I love Jesse as the heel commentator, just being like, that's smart. Don't let them in. And Gorilla's like, oh, that's ridiculous. Jesse's like, count them all out right now. And he's like, the match hasn't even started yet, Jesse, and the snake was what got you guys entry into the ring. So it was fun for me to have that memory refreshed, because I remember you telling that story about the snake and how it was a really big one and you couldn't control it. It still worked with the smaller snake, though. It did.
But that smaller snake was still huge.
Oh, 100%.
That was bigger than the one he usually brought in there. That's why he was holding it so tight,
Yeah. Now, who comes up with that? Is that something you guys call, or does an agent say, okay, you're going to come down to the ring, they're not going to let you in, you're going to throw the snake in there? Is that something you guys come up with, or does that come from higher up?
No, that comes from the guys in the ring. That's just part of the match. I mean, they're
awesome.
Freelancing as well. So
So
if I was in the ring, I wouldn't want the other guys to come in that easily either. So
it was like when we wrestled the British Bulldogs. They'd bring the Bulldog in. We had no idea they're going to sick the dog after us. And you'd have to freaking run, or that dog would get you. I mean, that was just part of the deal.
Yeah.
Just the whole dynamic of, and we talked about it on the last episode, specifically Barry and I, where good guy versus bad guy, it would still work today. But in that time frame, I mean, it worked so perfectly, because you have the whole story of Hulk Hogan, Demolition, and Jake Roberts, where you could really believe like, no, these are the good guys. They're all friends. And what's so great about Ted DiBiase is he's the $1 million man. He's the guy who buys everybody. So of course he's going to have the Powers of Pain on his team. Of course he's going to have the monster Zeus, because money's no object to this guy. He can afford to have them do his bidding. And of course the main event storyline, I mean, DiBiase and Hogan always going back and forth and things of that nature. I mean, that was already a built-in feud. That's what I loved about this match too, was other than setting up Zeus versus Hogan, there was so much history with the guys in that ring. Jake was feuding with DiBiase at that point. Hogan had the past feud with DiBiase, was starting with Zeus. And like I said, you guys in Powers of Pain were just so simpatico at that point. It probably felt pretty good to actually put the Powers of Pain over in that match too, because they had done the favor for you so many times on the road and on pay-per-view. But they got to one-up you a little bit there in that match.
Well, we had so many good matches with those guys, and like Barry's mentioned, we still see them quite often on the road, and it's always nice to get together and just be friends. So one hand puts over the other hand. That's all.
Definitely.
We have to have them on this podcast, and I know they would come on here.
Oh, I know.
Wouldn't that be fun to have them on here, Bill?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, I had a lot of fun with them. I did a virtual signing with them a number of years ago. They were fun guys. I knew the Barbarian a little bit. I did some indie shows with him years back, and just a total gentleman. So yeah, that would be really cool. I have to ask though, Survivor Series 1989, Rosemont Horizon, Chicago. No bologna sandwiches at this show, right? I mean, at least you got that Chicago deep dish, I'd imagine.
You know what? I honestly don't remember. I remember lots of events on Thanksgiving that we just got bologna sandwiches.
yeah. Ryan, I got to ask you a question too. The finishes that we had in that match, they were pretty easy finishes, weren't they? And
Actually,
they all worked.
they did work. You actually were pinned in that match by the Barbarian, who came off with a flying clothesline, which is actually how you were eliminated the year before in Survivor Series, that flying clothesline finish. And just so simple. But that's what I was saying in the last episode. Like, if you're in a real fight, and Barry, I mean, you could probably attest to this because from your years of bouncing in the clubs and the stuff you used to see, sometimes all it takes for someone to get knocked out is just one lucky shot. And sometimes it's a smaller guy that can get that one lucky shot in on the big bulked up guy. And I always thought that if you're presenting something to the public under the illusion that what they're watching is a legitimate fight or a legitimate competition, you have to incorporate that into some of the matches. Sure, you're going to have some matches where a guy's going to kick out of maybe two finishers because it's a main event type thing. But I would love to see that more in today's product. I would love to see more of a mistake. A guy screws up and gets rolled up into a small package, or a guy gets knocked out from a running knee. And you just don't see that anymore. So I'm glad you mentioned that, because a flying clothesline from the Barbarian is going to put any human being on their back for 3 seconds.
Exactly.
Yeah, the finish is great.
Yeah, and it was funny because all of the finishes were very simple.
Yeah.
Hulk dropped the leg. Boom, that was it. Jake did his finish. Boom, on Virgil. And then he gets beat by Ted. I mean, it just all worked out. Everything was real simple.
Yeah, all put together. Now, in that dynamic, are you guys talking with each other just for the finishes? I know most of the stuff is called out in the ring, but is Bill saying to Jake, oh, it would be cool? You're going to hit the DDT on Virgil, and then DiBiase's going to get on you after that. Like, do you guys all have that kind of communication with each other, or is it just like everyone's kind of looking out for themselves and their own finishes?
Well, we'd be responsible for how we're going out or how we're going over.
Gotcha.
I wouldn't step on Jake or Barry or anybody else's toes, and neither would he. So, yeah, we'd be responsible for our part.
Now, do they tell you guys after or even before you go out there, like, again, the powers of pain put you guys over, or you put those guys over in that match, but then it wasn't long after that you wind up losing, only a couple weeks, you lose the tag team titles to the Colossal Connection. Do you know that going into Survivor Series that you're about to go off on and do something with the Colossal Connection, or is there a belief like, oh, okay, well, powers of pain are getting the one up on us tonight, we're going to continue this feud out with them, or you guys aren't privy to that information at all at that point?
Well, like we talked about earlier, you're not thinking that far ahead. You're thinking for the night,
Mm-hmm.
and then maybe the next day, that night. But as far as weeks ahead or week ahead or 2 weeks ahead, no, you don't. You're not worried about that.
Yeah, I don't think we ever found out ahead of time that we were going to drop the belts to somebody. It was, that night, or maybe if there was a TV show at TV, they might tell you that, hey, tomorrow you're going to drop the belts or something. It just happens. It was just part of the show. You're going to lose them tonight.
Yeah. but it is such an iconic moment and an iconic poster. I'm actually sending a note to Dan right now because I want him to make sure that we include that in post-production. That poster of you guys, that to me is the Survivor Series. I mean, I think and most fans have told us this, you said you saw it at the conventions, people always want that photo signed and everything. When I think of Survivor Series 1989, I mean, that is the prime. I remember going to birthday parties as a kid where it was Hulkamania themed and that poster would be on the wall. I mean, just such a cool moment. But now we have to shift gears a little bit because, again, just like life, anything can happen at the drop of a hat, right? And anything can change. And a lot went on in between Survivor Series 1989 and Survivor Series 1990. And you can go back in the catalog and look at the past episodes that we've put up to know exactly what I'm talking about. If you like, comment, subscribe, and share this channel, it's all there. And we go very in depth. So I don't want to make it like we're just skimming over it. All that information is available. Axe has his health scare. Crush joins Demolition. It was seemingly out of nowhere. This is after you guys lose the tag titles to the Colossal Connection, win them back at WrestleMania 6 to one of the loudest, craziest pops I've ever heard. You have the SummerSlam best 2 out of 3 falls match with the Hart Foundation. Again, talk about the old expression, chicken shit, turning it into chicken salad. You get dealt this hand where Axe gets a health scare, Crush comes in. You still manage to pull off an incredible match and a great program. 2 months later, 3 months later, we're Thanksgiving 1990 Survivor Series, Hartford Civic Center in Hartford, Connecticut. And this time it's a little bit different. It's the Perfect Team, which is Mr. Perfect, managed by Bobby the Brain Heenan, and Axe, Smash, and Crush of Demolition. And they're going against the World Wrestling Federation champion, the Ultimate Warrior, the Legion of Doom, and the Texas Tornado, Kerry Von Erich. It's the opening match of the show. And you know what? I can't even follow up after that reaction. What's going through your mind just being reminded of that right now, hearing those names?
Holy hell, put your boots on and tie them tight.
Ryan, we were just talking about the year before when everybody worked with everybody. It was phenomenal. And then you get this one, and it's all great guys and everything, but it's just one of those clashes.
Well, listen, let's be realistic here. This is why Survivor Series 1990 is so fascinating to me, and it goes to show how incredible professional wrestling fans are and how loyal they are. Because think about it this way, Axe, this was your last televised WWE appearance, right?
Right.
It was the first televised appearance of The Undertaker. So here we are 35 years later, and The Undertaker, who was the longest tenured professional wrestler in WWE, he's been gone now a couple of years. His first night was your last night, and yet people still want to come meet you guys and still want to get those pictures. So, but what a crazy pay-per-view this was. This was also the debut of the gobbledygooker with the egg.
Yeah, that didn't go over very well.
No, it didn't. And it was it was Hector Guerrero under a suit. I mean,
I don't think he'll fess up to that. It might have been somebody that looked like him.
I mean, would you want to fess up to that?
Oh no.
I really, and this is where, look, you guys are two amazing gentlemen. You have a nice thing to say about a lot of people. You're under WWE Legends contracts now, but it's a brand new regime. Be honest. Walk me through, especially you, Bill, what your mindset was going into this. And we have to ask the question that's been burning on the internet's mind for years. Why was Demolition Axe's hair so damn nice?
Well, that goes back to I was going to take an office position, and we talked about that before.
Yes.
And the duties and the pay and et cetera, kept changing, getting less, until the point where I said, I don't really want to do it. And that was my last night at the office being the arena. So I had already taken my stapler and my briefcase, my books and notes, and put them in the briefcase. And as I'm walking out of the building, uh, that was my, I'll see you later, guys. Take care. Hope everything works out. So I didn't put the gel in my hair. Uh, that was that. That was it. I mean, it wasn't, that was my, I'm not coming back anymore. So
Now, let me ask you, and you might not remember the specific details. Maybe one of you does or whatever. And I don't know if it's ever been covered in any shoot interview. Crush is now a member of the team. We've established that. When do you and Barry have that talk? That, hey, this is it. Is it 2 weeks before? Is it that night? When do you guys know that this tag team is going its separate ways? Crush is in the spot, but you're leaving.
well, I think that we both knew that it was, I mean, Barry knew that I was going to take the office position, and then he also knew, I'm sure he knew that I wasn't going to take it. I had turned it down, and I wasn't really on good uh, terms with Vince at that time, so the vibes were probably out there.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. What do you think, Barry?
Yeah, the whole thing was strange because we really didn't know anything that was going on that much, and I knew once Bill was gone, then that was going to be the end of the demolition. It's just how do you phase out of that, So,
Oh, so you didn't think at the time that it was just going to be you and Crush for the foreseeable future? You just
no, I knew it was going to be the end of it, and I didn't really want to do it anymore. Crush was great and everything, but just losing Bill just wasn't comfortable. I mean, we were the tag team, and without him, I didn't really want to have that tag team because now, you're in a different position. You were up here, and now you're going to be going boom, 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 and then you're out. So it's, to me, the money's not the most important part. It's our friendship, our how you work, how much you like your job and everything. That was more important than anything to me, and I knew it just wasn't going to be the same. And that was when, before that, they put those stupid masks on us. They did. It was the end of Demolition, and that's why it was the end of, when he was done, I was done.
Now, pardon my ignorance as a fan, but my understanding was that back then there were no guaranteed contracts, right? So everything kind of worked on notice, right? So
Right.
what was considered? I mean, you had decided that you weren't going to take the office job. How long did you give notice that, all right, I'm out. Survivor Series is my last night?
I think I mentioned it. I sat with Vince, I think 3 or 4 different times. The first time was in Rochester. The second time, I believe, was in Cleveland. And then the third time, uh, it may have been up around Connecticut or something.
Mm-hmm.
And then I just told him that I said, the situation that you're putting me into, it was going to be this. And then all of a sudden it starts funneling down, and the duties got less, and the pay was drastically reduced. It was like, hey, we really don't want you to do it. So rather than say, hey, please hire me, I mean, I knew I had options.
Mm-hmm.
So I had immediately contacted Inoki's office, which I had a long-standing relationship. And when was this? This was Thanksgiving, correct?
Mm-hmm.
I was already scheduled to go to Japan for the Christmas tour.
Wow.
So, I mean, the relationship I had with Inoki over 15 years, I could literally get on the phone, make a call, and I'd be there within a month.
Wow.
So I think Barry knew about this, I'm sure.
Yeah.
And it wasn't I was trying to keep it from him, but I told Vince that was going to be my last one.
I don't want to gloss over the actual match itself. There were a couple things that I found interesting. First of all, the fact that you hear the rumors, and before people get upset in the comments, I watch as a fan the same thing that you guys have watched over the years. So I don't have any real insider information. I don't have any more know-how of what's going on or what's gone on than you guys do. But, you hear over the years from talent and past members of the office that they really weren't sure what to do with the Ultimate Warrior as the champion, right? That maybe there was some buyer's remorse. And Bill, you've touched on that in previous episodes. They always want to replace what they have. They always have something great and get rid of it. The World Wrestling Federation champion is in an opening match where, in theory, he really doesn't have any built-in feud with any of the other opponents. You guys have the LOD connection. It's almost like they took the champion and said, well, we'll just have him be with the Road Warriors because they got 3 guys and the Road Warriors have 2. Kerry Von Erich at the time was feuding over the Intercontinental title with Mr. Perfect Herning. Yeah. So all of that made sense. I mean, you guys are the 2 last surviving members from that match, which is mind-blowing to even say out loud, and a little bit of morbid trivia, but it is a fact. I got to know what it's like to work with those guys. I mean, Kerry Von Erich, who I've always been a big fan of, he passed away when I was still a very young child. I've seen the Iron Claw movie. I've read so much about world-class championship wrestling, watched the tapes. Did you guys know him before his short WWE run? Either one of you?
I did not know.
Yeah, I met him in Dallas when I worked in Mid-South for Bill Watts. Mm-hmm. We worked a few shots over in Dallas, and then he came to Mid-South a few shots. So that's where I met him. And
was that prior to his accident, with the motorcycle accident?
Yeah, it was before the motorcycle accident, yeah.
But, so you noticed a change in his lifestyle from before and after, I'd imagine?
Oh, yeah. And talking about a nice guy, he was just a super nice guy. But, all those baby faces in that match, they it's hard to say, but it's like they want to get over so bad that they don't get over. If they would let the heels get them over, then they'd really get over.
Yeah.
How do you go against the Demolition, who makes everybody look good, and then we cheat to win or whatever? Kurt Hennig gets beat up the whole time and makes you, a monster before he does whatever he's going to do. And it's just weird how you get in the match with the Road Warriors, the Warrior, and Kerry, and they all got to look so strong that it kind of hurts the match. And then,
without a doubt.
You know what I'm saying? And now it's almost like when you put all of them together, one of them wants to be stronger than the other, and then it actually gets worse when they go against guys like us.
You get 4 guys like that in the ring, all want to be super strong, all want to be the top dog. Who in the hell are you working with? Who are you getting heat on? Who are you going to hot tag to? It didn't work.
Yeah. So really, you almost had to manhandle them to get them to sell, And, I mean, it worked, but, I don't know how you saw it, but, me, because I know what's going on, it's pulling teeth a little bit. And
no, I picked up on that because, like you said, I mean, even if we take Kerry Von Erich out of the equation, I mean, just putting Road Warrior Animal, Road Warrior Hawk, and the Ultimate Warrior on the same team, again, those are 3 monsters known for being monsters. So who's going to be the vulnerable guy? I mean, it would probably have to wind up being Kerry, but what does that do for the feud or the story that you're in with the Road Warriors? Or, it seemed like it was very thrown together, and how you guys got disqualified really kind of threw me off. I mean, because Axe got pinned by the Ultimate Warrior. That happened pretty quickly. And then there was which I've never seen in Survivor Series prior, and I've never seen it since. There was a double disqualification where
all of us.
I mean, like that just, so now 4 guys are gone in one swoop. And it was really weird. You could even tell, like you pushed the ref, but then like Hawk kicked the ref. And then I'm thinking, well, why would the baby face kick the referee? Like, I didn't think that then as a young kid, but watching it now, I'm like, what the hell was going on here?
Yeah. And that's, working with the Road Warriors, it was kind of the same thing Bill and I would work with them, and it just clashed. They didn't let us do our stuff because the stuff we did was we'd put everybody over.
Yeah.
Every team we worked with, we beat them up, we put them over big time, and give them a comeback somehow. And we either cheat to win, or Fuji would cheat to win, or whatever. And that was just kind of the secret sauce for everything. But you couldn't do it with them because they needed to be strong. You know what I mean?
Now,
And
did that ever come up in conversation because you had a personal friendship with Animal Joe? Like, is there ever a night at the bar over a beer or hanging out, on a flight, and where you go, hey, like, what the hell's
oh
going
yeah,
on, man?
oh yeah,
Oh,
but that just wasn't. It wasn't their gimmick. I mean, and you know what? They could work too if they wanted to. But
mhm.
I think Hawk was a little bit better than Animal, work wise. But
Mhm.
yeah, it was too bad that I think if they would have kept us apart, then they would have learned our style more, and
Yeah.
then it might have worked later on. What do you think, Bill?
Well, I think that they had so much success in the other territories doing what they did, they weren't going to change. Uh, but you got two teams that are very similar. And if you're going to bump heads, I go back to the fact that if Andre the Giant can sell and
Yeah,
get people to get behind him, anybody can sell.
Right.
And they were big guys, strong guys, but they weren't the size of Andre. And Andre sold, and people believed him when he was selling. And then you throw in the Warrior. He don't sell. All he does is hit the ropes, bang, bang, bang. And then poor Kerry, he's supposed to be the weakest of the four. Well, how's he going to survive? They had a horrible combination. They should have put two guys in there and then two weaker links in there, not four strong guys that can't sell a bump. Because holy mackerel, if Hawk sells, well, I'm not going to sell. And then if Warrior sells, well, I'm not going to sell. Well, none of them sold. I
yeah,
was glad I get it. I was in and out of there so fast. I was happy. I was showering. That probably had a smile on my face. So that's what I remember of that
and I
match.
got my ass kicked the whole time, and so did Kurt. And Crush stayed on the sideline most of the time. But I'll tell you one thing though, Kurt, he made the Warrior sell because the Warrior started doing his stuff a little bit, and I seen Kurt go, no, you stay down. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
because Kurt flew for him. I mean, he put Warrior over like you wouldn't believe. And Kurt told Warrior, you better freaking sell for me because I sold my ass off for you. So the
Makes
Warrior did
sense.
the best he could, you know, in that circumstance. But, you could tell Kurt was frustrated with it.
And Barry, what was the year that you had your teeth knocked out by Warrior?
That was,
That year.
it was that year, yeah.
Oh, so
Yeah.
this was obviously then this was after that. So you're already apprehensive to get in
No,
there
no,
on.
no. It was before that match because
Yeah, it
it
was
was the
before that match.
previous year.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because it was the
We had
Road
worked with
Warriors.
the
It was
we
the
had worked
Road
with the
War.
Road Warriors and them. Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh. So
yeah.
now
That was in Minneapolis too, my hometown.
well, at least you got to go to the dentist close by. I
Yeah,
mean,
and
it's
my
not.
mom got to see that one.
But Bill, I have to ask you, I mean, just kind of the old territory way and what you hear the old time wrestlers talk about, you had already given your notice. So I think you probably knew going in that it was going to be a quick night for you, right? I mean, when they told you you're going to be the first one gone, that wasn't a surprise to you.
Probably not. I think that was their. Well, we're going to punish you for turning us down.
Hmm.
Thank you.
It's interesting now, and I think we're kind of getting back to that, even though the territories don't exist, at least in the form that they did. But I feel like now we're in a time frame with the current wrestling product where a lot of these guys have the same mindset that you had, Bill. Like you said, you gave your notice, you had other options, you were on your way to Japan, right? For the longest time in pro wrestling, especially after WCW got bought by WWE, guys didn't have options. I mean, yeah, okay, TNA and different things. Now you have AEW and stuff, but for the longest time, if you lost your job in WWE, yeah, you might have a little bit of a run on the indies for a couple months where you can get top dollar, but then that drizzles out. I feel like we're finally back in a time frame where if a guy decides to leave, not resign, get released, what have you, there are options for him, whether it be podcasting, whether it be these independents, because the internet, they can advertise their fans. We're seeing that now with Karrion Kross. I mean, the guy's working everywhere and he's got a swell of fan support behind him. I got to ask, Survivor Series 1990, it's your last night. Do you do anything to celebrate after the show? Is there something, maybe even a Thanksgiving tradition that's developed at this point amongst the boys? Is there like an extra special get together because it's your last night in town? Or is it just kind of like, nope, see you later?
No, I think, Barry and I were very boring. I probably went back to the hotel and caught the plane home the next day.
Yeah.
You know, I didn't have any reason to celebrate. The only thing I was celebrating was probably just getting the weight off my shoulder and moving on.
So
Yeah.
didn't we have any other matches right after that? Or was that your last night?
That was my last night. Yeah.
Yeah, no, Smash and Crush.
I can vaguely remember. I'll tell you that I remember. I thought I had leprosy or something that night because every other time I'd see Vince, he'd come up to me and talk to me and this and that and schmooze a little bit. That he just totally ignored me, like gave me not only the cold shoulder, like the double cold shoulder. So it was like, he turned me down or something like that. But it was my decision. So
Well, then
I was kind of glad. I was
then he
kind of
took it
glad to
out on
move
me
on.
then after that.
Huh?
Then he took it out on me after that. Then he kind of
Sorry.
gave me the cold shoulder for a while,
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
I wasn't there much longer, and I walked out of there, and I left, and
Well, remember when we had this situation where we had approached him about leaving earlier,
yeah,
and he sort of frowned on it. He was going to punish us, but we were making money for him, so the punishment only lasted about a day and a half.
yeah.
Can you elaborate on that story a little bit?
Well, I don't remember all the particulars, but we were getting what we thought screwed around a little bit on our bookings,
Okay.
and we had been approached by WCW at that time. Ole had asked me to come in, and I approached Barry, and he thought it was a good idea for us to get out of there. So we gave Vince our notice, and he sort of got upset, but it only lasted for about a day and a half. And I told Barry, I said, it's going to be easier on me because I'll be home, and you'll still be away from home. But we got treated better right after that, didn't we?
Yeah, we did. Yeah, we did.
You hear guys tell the story. I mean, Tito Santana, who I hope that we're going to have on a future episode, he famously even mentioned it during his Hall of Fame speech way back in 2004, that Vince had this ability to, for lack of a better term, bullshit guys, where you'd go in there all full of fire and piss and vinegar and be like, oh, I'm going to give my notice, or I'm going to really tell him. And he would schmooze and wind up making you leave that room. And then you'd realize, oh, wow, I didn't accomplish anything. Sounds to me like you guys didn't have that type of relationship. Like, I think maybe he knew that you knew that he was that type of guy, because you had to threaten to give notice and then he fixed things for you. And then Bill, he couldn't talk you into staying when you made the decision that you wanted out. So kudos to you guys for that.
Well, I had a good option. I was fortunate. A lot, like you said earlier, a lot of guys don't have that option. We saw, and I'm not going to ever mention anybody, but we saw a lot of guys down on their knees begging to stay in their position, even at drastically lower prices, pay. And neither Barry or I was going to do that because we knew that we had certain abilities and we could work other places. It was just a matter of, you have standards and you have conviction. So this is a job. We'll find another job.
Now, when you talk about the offer from WCW with Ole that you could go over there? I mean, obviously you couldn't be called Demolition, but
Right.
is it just we're going to keep you guys as a tag team, maybe change the paint a little bit, different name, or is it going to be a separate thing entirely? Did that get
Well,
that far?
it was similar to what they had done with Legion of Doom. You know, they wanted a tag team to come down here, and not that we could replace them, but we could be another type of demolition down there.
Mm-hmm.
So
Interesting to think what would have happened if that took place. And then, so of course, Barry, you stay, you finish up with Crush, and now what happens when you decide you want to become Repo Man? I mean, we'll get into that in a future episode, but do you go to Vince and just say, "Hey, I have this idea for going singles"?
No,
Or
no. I after all this was happening with Bill and everything, and I talked to Crush about it. I said I can't be here anymore. I think my last match was in was at WrestleMania, I think,
7.
and that was I think about my last time. And then I left. I said, Vince, I can't take it anymore. I left,
Wow.
and I was out duck hunting, and Vince was calling the house. And my wife is screaming at me, Barry, you got to come. And I said, I need time off, you know.
Yeah.
And
who wouldn't? I mean, at that point,
I just didn't want to have no part of it anymore, you know. And then finally he said, well, Barry, you know, I talked to him. He said, just come on up and let's talk. So I went up there, and then, you know, we just talked about different things, and we'll get on that in the next podcast. But that's kind of
definitely. No, but you know, that's what I love about doing these with you guys is that, you know, sure, we're going to eventually in the next couple of weeks and heading into 2026, you guys will see we're going to be setting up a separate account where people can do watch alongs with us, and we'll go more in depth on the pay-per-views. The focus of these episodes, though, is to talk specifically about the mindsets of Axe and Smash going into these events that they were heavily featured on. And what I love about this episode in particular is, you know, we talked about 2 iconic pay-per-view appearances you had, but they really were complete opposite ends of the spectrum, right? Riding that high horse, 1989, Hulk Hogan, Jake Roberts, Demolition, to now 1990. Still, you're working with the WWE champion at the time, but it's a completely different set of circumstances. And that's why I said, what a difference a year makes. And we went from that into this whole history lesson, and I learned some things that I was not privy to. So I'm grateful that you guys are willing to share so many of these memories. And I know sometimes they could be painful ones as well, but you know, they did shape your careers and they are a part of your story. I want to say happy Thanksgiving to everybody who's watching. You guys are going to be on the road this Thanksgiving weekend. You want to tell us a little bit about that?
Well, it's just a typical Thanksgiving weekend. Yeah, we're going to be in Winston-Salem at WrestleCade.
Nice.
And we invite all the people to come out. It's a real good event, one of our favorite events. And they've teamed up with Asylum and Nerd Closet, and they have a new action figure, double action figure of Axe and Smash that they're co-sponsoring, so the people can come and get their action figures signed. So we'll be there all day and hopefully meeting a lot of people and signing a lot of action figures.
Yeah, and that's a fun show. There's a lot of wrestlers, and we're going to see a lot of our old friends there. Yeah, that's what we're doing.
And I love that you guys still get to do that because, you know, I'm sure, like you were just saying, Barry, you're out duck hunting, you needed a break. But once that life is in you, that life on the road, for the rest of your life, you got to remain somewhat active and keep that traveling up. Not to that extent, but it's got to be nice to be able to reunite with your friends and catch up. And so I think it's great that you still do it. All I do and read and see about are just all these rave reviews from people that love running into you guys at these conventions. I just saw, I shared it a couple of weeks ago, and then I saw you guys shared it as well on the Search and Destroy You Instagram page. The couple and their child that dressed as Demolition and Fuji. I mean, how amazing is that? Again, Survivor Series 1990, the last appearance of Axe, the first appearance of The Undertaker, and 35 years later, you got kids that are now 8 to 12 years old dressing up as Demolition. I mean, that has just got to be the biggest thrill for you guys to know that you had that much of an influence that still carries on today. I love it. So happy Thanksgiving, everybody. Make sure you like, comment, share, subscribe. Please keep spreading the word about this podcast. The more it grows, the more content you guys are going to get. You can follow us all on social media. The Demolition Podcast page on Instagram is at Demolition Pod. Demolition are at Search and Destroy You. Give me a follow if you wish at Ryan Marr Comedy, all on Instagram. Keep those questions, comments coming. Thank you so much, guys. Happy Thanksgiving. Have a great night.
Thank you.
Thank
See you
you.
later.
Here comes the